Hey, it's Amy Pearson from beingamy.com. I'm here to share another tidbit that has been helping me be happier in the world. And here with me today is my dog, Allie. She's kind of sitting on the couch staring off in the distance. Maybe she's contemplating the meaning of existence, but she's also snorting and doing it loudly. So if you hear snorting, just know that that's Allie the dog, and she is very vocal in that way. So today I want to talk about be careful what you ask for because I'm coming off a very rough weekend. It's actually Monday, and I'm coming off a very rough weekend because last week I had this epiphany that I want a peaceful life. I want to feel peaceful as often as I can. And I was having the experience, it was a very strange experience last week where there were a couple days when I just felt like so spacious with my time, almost like, should I be doing something right now? Or is there somewhere I should be? Or did I miss a meeting? I just felt like, wow, I have so much space right now. And nothing really had changed about my world. So I remembered the feeling of that and going, I like this. But I also had this recognition that there was a part of me that recognized that this didn't feel right. This didn't feel natural. And I think the second day of spaciousness that evening, I was really looking forward to a spacious night where I think I was going to watch some tennis. And I don't know. Let's see. The girls were home with me, and I don't know where Anthony was at that time. I think he may have been at baseball practice or something, my son. But anyway, I was looking forward to a spacious evening, enjoying some tennis on TV, and then everything was fine. And then all of a sudden, there was so much drama between the girls, and it had something to do with who was going to sleep with me that night because my husband was out of town. And I remembered it just being awful. It was sort of like I finally had to say, no one is going to sleep with me because you guys can't seem to figure out a way to work this out. And it was very dramatic. And I just had this, I think, realization that this had to do with me. I mean, obviously they were creating drama, but it also had to do with me and this discomfort with the idea that I could have a peaceful, spacious evening and that would be totally natural. And so I think there was a part of me that created that in some way. And so I asked the universe, spirit, source, whatever you want to call it, I asked source, or rather, I set the intention to create more peace in my life. And I have heard it said that often when we set an intention for something, the universe will throw all kinds of stuff at us if we're not ready for that or if we don't have the environment yet for that. The universe will throw stuff at us so that we can get to the inner space, create the inner space or create the right environment on the inside so that we can really have that thing. And so for me, I asked for peace. And so what happened, what transpired this weekend was that I pretty much got bombarded with just about anything you can think of that would rattle me. And so there was a lot of drama this weekend, and a lot of it just were some of my worst nightmare triggers that came up. And I had a really, really hard time regulating my nervous system. And now it's Monday, and I'm creating this video because I want to tell you that it's pretty amazing because it was a hard weekend, and I wouldn't wish it on anyone. I mean, and most of it was just happening internally for me. Things were coming at me that were really rattling me on the inside so that I was in a lot of fear and I was in a lot of anger, and I was in a lot of resentment, and became very rattled, and my nervous system, just a lot of anxiety. It was pretty awful. But what happened was that I learned so much. Okay, so I'm going to share with you all the things I learned. And it's interesting because I was watching this Facebook video of a spiritual person that I follow, and she was guiding us through this meditation, and she was having us think about things that bring us a lot of peace and comfort and happiness, and really get into that feeling state. And then she was having us think about and visualize things that rattle us, and allow ourselves to get into that vibration. And then she said that they are both come from source, that they are born. Like, it's really easy for us to think that all of those pieces of our lives that bring us joy come from source. It's really easy to connect the dots there. But sometimes when things come at us, or that we experience that put us into states of anxiety or fear, we don't recognize that comes from source as well. And so I think it's really important for me to share some of the things that I learned, because I set an intention for peace in my life. And then the universe was like, she's not ready yet, and threw a bunch of shit at me over the weekend to rattle me and get me into all of these really low vibrating energies, to teach me things that will help me create an inner environment where I am able to manifest that peace that I'm asking for. And so one of the things that happened over the weekend was that I became aware of the kids are going back to school. They went back to school full time today. And I became aware of some things some information that was given from the school about their day. And one of the things that was in the PowerPoint is that they're not going to be able to talk at lunchtime. So they're gonna only get 15 minutes at lunch, and they're not going to be able to actually talk to each other at lunch. And so I found this out, and I had already been rattled by a bunch of other stuff that had happened that had rattled me. And so my nervous system wasn't regulated. And so immediately, because I'm what's known as a quick start on the Colby scale, and I'm also a Sun in Aries, is that I went into action, and I sent this email to the principal of the school, and I CC'd like a million different, I CC'd all of my kids' teachers. It was like, how when you're mad and you just want to CC everyone? I did that. I CC'd. Is it like there should be a term for when you CC a bunch of people because you're mad? So I sent this email, and I wanted the principal to be aware of how I had to, read that twice, and the environment that we're creating at school. Are we just re-traumatizing them by policing them at lunchtime? And all of these things I think are legitimate concerns. But then I also sent an email to a list of parents to make them aware and to invite them to email. And I received a note back from the principal to let me know that it was a district policy. It wasn't a school policy, and that, she thanks for, the information and all that. But what I realized after that evening was that my nervous system wasn't at all regulated when I sent that. I wasn't sending that from a place of neutrality or acceptance or love or any of those higher frequency emotions. I was sending it from this place of fear and this place of anxiety and this place of anger, honestly. And I'm reading a book that is absolutely blowing my mind. I don't know if any of you are aware of the work of David Hawkins. There's a book called Power versus Force. But this is the most recent, and it's called The Map of Consciousness Explained. And if you haven't looked into David Hawkins and the Map of Consciousness, run, do not walk, because what he has done is he's been able to create a scale of emotions, and he's been able to calibrate emotions in a scientific way to determine the amount of power that they possess. Um, and I'm going to create another separate video about this because and probably several, because this is absolutely mind blowing and it's changing my world. And I think it's also a gift from universe for me because a couple I just it was a synchronicity that this author came into my awareness after I had asked for peace. So anyway, the point is that when you send things out from lower vibrational emotions, you do not your actions do not carry as much power as they would when you're taking actions from higher frequency emotions. And so I'm going to create some videos about that. But I did it. And I don't know what the results there were no like outright negative results from that behavior that I'm aware of, other than probably coming off pretty aggressive and strong, on the part of like other parents and teachers. And so I'm not sure. It remains to be seen. And I'll set an intention right now that retroactively that the communication that I sent be received with acceptance and peace and love, and maybe that will help. But that was one thing that I became aware of this weekend was when you don't take action from a regulated place, when you don't do things to take care of yourself, when you're in this triggered place emotionally, your behaviors do not carry as much power as they would otherwise. And so that was one really important lesson that I learned this weekend because of, the universe throwing all this, kind of bombarding me with all this, stuff to trigger me and help me get more, create an inner environment that's more able to hold peace. The other thing, and this was something that my husband made me aware of, was that I was literally a minefield of fear. Like he couldn't say anything to me without triggering me. And he reminded me that, I need to have faith. If I am a spiritual person, I need to trust that there is something larger going on here and that I am held, I am cradled, I am loved, and I need to have faith that everything is going to be okay. And sometimes I forget that when I get into this place of fear and anxiety and anger. I forget to have faith that I am cradled and that we all are, and that these things are happening for us and not to us. And so that was one thing. And then the other really cool thing this weekend was that I was working on some art through this company called Let's Make Art. I'm doing some art journaling. And what they do is they send you some art materials and they give you a prompt. And so the prompt yesterday that I was working with is the concept of wabi sabi, which is the idea of finding beauty in the imperfections. And it's was so apropos. And I remembered I was contemplating that as I was driving to the store or something, and just how amazing it was that that message came to me this weekend, because that's really what all of my work is about when I talk about integrating the whole self and forgiving those parts of ourselves that we'd rather hide, and really the idea that everything has a shadow and a light, and that it's all there as part of the whole, and that the shadow teaches us about the light and helps us to expand. And so really loving the imperfections and finding the beauty there. And so that was something that came at me that helped me to get to this place, I think, where I'm hopefully being prepared to be in an environment and create an environment that's more peaceful. And then the last thing is that, I was reading it here last night, and it's this idea that we create our world and our perception based on the emotional frequency that we hold. And so if and I think about my dad, he's coming up a lot in these videos. I love you, Dad. But my dad and I are on completely different wavelengths on a lot of things. And we have had a lot of we've butted heads a lot. There's been a lot, let's just say that, between us. And sometimes I just feel like he's on a different planet. And sometimes there are just things that we just can't talk about. And in the past, I've tried to get through to him without any, it's just, and he's tried to get through to me, and we just haven't had any success, or, and not, that hasn't worked. And I was reading about how different people they see the world from whatever emotional lens they're at that time. So if you're someone who vibrates or calibrates at one, like say the emotional frequency of 100, or say you're someone who calibrates most of the time in this place of fear, and you're talking to someone who's calibrating at an emotional place of like 300, and maybe they calibrate at, overall, this emotion of acceptance or a neutrality. I don't remember what the exact numbers are. It's like that person who calibrates at 100 sees green, and the person who calibrates at 300 sees blue. And, they're not going to be able to see they're going to see different things. They're going to see differently. And so this was really helpful for me in understanding some of the interactions I've been having lately with family and friends, who I'm going, what are they thinking? Like, I've just, I've just had a lot of exchanges, or I've seen people, just where I'm like, I can't get on that wavelength. I don't feel like I relate at all. And it's really surprising to me. And it's a little bit like upsetting. And so this was really helpful for me to understand that, everybody is holding a certain emotional frequency, and that creates the lens. It's how they see the world. It's like the example that was given is that, someone who sees a homeless person on the street, if they're viewing that homeless person from the emotional frequency of anger, their impression might be, why is that bastard taking up space here? I don't know. If that person is looking at this homeless person from the emotional frequency of curiosity, they might be like, I wonder what is up with this guy. What is his life? What was his life like? What were some of the factors that contributed to him, living, on the streets? If it's an emotional frequency of love, it might be, can I get this guy some food or a blanket? He looks cold. Or maybe it's just neutrality, this idea that, there are some people who live in homes, and there are some people who don't. I don't know. So, but the point is that we are seeing the world from the emotional frequency that we resonate. And so what that says to me is that it's really important for us to be aware of that, and to work on trying to raise our emotional frequency. And what does that look like? And also just understanding that everybody's on their own path. And sometimes when we don't understand choices or behaviors that others make, it has to do with where they are on that path. And that's okay. And so that made a lot of sense to me. And so here I am. It's Monday. It was a very, I was rattled this week. Let's just say that. And even this morning, I didn't do well. Like, my son didn't want to go to school. God, I didn't hold a very high emotional frequency, because he was doing that teenager thing where he was not speaking to me, or he wasn't responding to me, and he was moping around, and I was trying to be really upbeat, and then I sort of lost my shit. And so, I'm not saying I'm over here, clearly, not in the bed, not always holding frequency, but I know that I received so much this weekend to help me, and I have so much new awareness from this weekend. It's actually kind of mind-blowing, and I just wanted to let you know, and we'll see. I really, really want to set the intention that I will have peace in my life. I will have faith that everything is here happening for all of us, and that we are all open to raising our emotional frequency to higher and higher levels. so that we can act with more power in the world. And I'm looking for a lot of really peaceful days to come. So I hope this was helpful and interesting to you. I am pretty fascinated by it. And I'm really grateful, that the weekend happened, even though I scared some parents and teachers and my son this morning. But I love you all. And this is Amy Pearson from Being Amy the blog. Thanks for watching. Give it a like, give it a share, give it a subscribe, and stay tuned.